Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 7th of June here, and you can see that we've pretty much filled back in. We had a positive extreme from right here, and pretty much came right back down to it. Okay, I want the bar. There we go for the window. And we were looking for low around 27. Here it was 28. We did 26, so it had filled it in right there at the lowest dip during intraday action, and we were kind of flat there. The reality is we ended up with a spike of the orange, but the key is it didn't move all the way above the plus 13.5. So there's a little bit of reprieve there. We also have a full reset of steel. So the potential is available. Would have been nice to have seen a dip of the extreme below the negative 45 line right here, the cyan one, because typically when you do that, you get a little nice strong bounce off that. It can still happen. It just means that we're probably in for a little bit more of blasé. And that doesn't surprise me given the potential Comey, the idea that, any more turmoil is not a horrible thing. It's just takes away from the exuberance is probably the best way to describe it. So here you have the NQ not fading as much as the S&P, which is still a positive sign. We just needed a little bit more to fill back in this previous positive extreme, but supporting beautifully above the ABM yellow there. Very nice indeed. In euro, it's doing just fine. It's just hovering straight across. Starting to see a little more of an increase in short activity, and I think they're probably waiting for some option expiry coming up. Bonds again. China announcing that they're going to buy a bunch more treasuries. Obviously, Trump has quelled their relationship to the point where they feel comfortable being back in the U.S. Oil taking a bounce off the idea that Saudi Arabia may actually take over Qatar, whichever you prefer pronunciation. I've heard it both ways, but it's an interesting one. Some people say it's about natural gas versus terrorism funding, but doesn't really matter. It's tensions in the Middle East, and anytime you have that, you've got a spot move of oil prices. Plus, we had reached an oversold situation there. We're stuck in the zone here until this started to move, and the orange dipped below right at the beginning of this and started to move up. And that's exactly what you look for. We'd already achieved our lower oversold. We'd come back to the previous lows. Decent, ripe for a turnaround there, and gold continuing to do as we expect. A lot of positive extremes in it, but that's not uncommon with this. As long as you have the cyan below the red, not a problem. Not a problem at all. And then from the 5K standpoint, you can see we had the short starting from the previous day, and it continued, and we ended up with some very soft buy signals. Anytime you have that steel way up there, especially above that 7.5, it becomes problematic. The first turnaround pivot of it was the beginning of a little bit stronger basing, but at that point you didn't have the orange outside of it. So if you look at it from that standpoint, right there, the orange was caught in between the range, and you really didn't get a move until the orange dipped right here below. And that was the start of it, even though the price action didn't reflect it, and just the dip there, but then it just exploded from that point. So it's always something worth watching because it gives you an indication. It's like here, we ended up with the short setup right there. You ended up with continuation basing until literally right before this last move. But we had the dip below the red line right back here, and that caused a basing, and that's what we're pretty much retesting, that bottom right there. And then we get some activity from there, and that'll be a much clearer signal because we're out of the range. So steel reset coming down below would be great if it gets below the red to make its turnaround. Should be enough to do it. Pretty straightforward action. There's not a whole lot to talk about when you don't have that much of a range. I think that there's just a lot of anxiousness on the political front, and if the Comey thing goes smooth, I think that we may see the pop from that. And barring any other world actions, obviously there's the terrorism thing, but not so dramatic that it's causing people to be panicked. I did want to show you this. You can see the little A right here that's lit up. What that is right-clicking the ABMDO. If you go to the input section, what I did was I converted the bar status normally says 2, and that's to turn it off. If you flip it to the 1, it then goes into activating all the different alerts, and you can pick which lines you want it to alert off of when it moves above, and it gives you the indications. Now in my case, typically I have it at alert once, but you can have it per bar, all sorts of things. That's a little bit excessive, I think. And then it sends me an email, but you can have it pop up on your screen. There's just a whole host of options that you can do. Like in this case, pop up 15 seconds, or it sends it to Trade the MBI so that you can see a visual alert of it, which can be interesting. It's a little slow, I think, having the pop-up. If you're at your screen, it makes sense, but if it's something where you're not, it certainly can give you an alert when there's a breach of any one of your supports, particularly if you're following something from a daily or something like that, and you don't have to follow it, but then you would know to, hey, get on my phone, I can make my order. Something like that. Always worth paying attention to those kinds of things. There's nice little technological bonuses. As always, though, trade well, and we will talk again later.